Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 189 of the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. We're doing an agency and government update, going through just everything that's happened with regards to immigration law, business and practice, and law since February 15th. My plan is always to do this on a monthly basis, but things got busy now. It's been 2 months past. If you are, most people are listening to the audio podcast of this, but you can catch the video where it's me recording and scrolling through the news cycle. And if you just want to watch that, that's available on YouTube as well. So you can check that out. Before we start, I want to make sure to mention the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox magazine. Issue number 2 is going to be coming up in a few weeks. If you had some interesting topics, you know what you're talking about, just email me with the topic idea and we could get rolling and add you to another issue. We're going to have a special edition issue number 3 on O1A visas, just on that topic. So if it's something that's your specialty, let me know. We could see find a way to get you in that and contribute an article. It'll help you practice and help the community as well. And I want to thank the sponsors for issue 1. That we have Ima Translate, Immigration Finder, Journey, and also I want to thank DocuWise, who's always been so kind to support both the magazine and the podcast. And DocuWise has a special discount code for listeners. If you go to DocuWise.com/immigration-lawyers-podcast, you get 10% off their annual plan, additional one using the code Immigration Lawyers Podcast. I think it'd be helpful for a lot of people. They have tons of products, and you're going to see this right now when we're going through the news about how much demand for employees there are. There's like a huge, the job market is exploding for demand, and a lot of people want paralegals. And I was talking with a colleague who's an immigration attorney about finding someone and how the listing should look like for a paralegal. And I'm like, should I add a requirement that they need to know how to use DocuWise, because that's the software that I use for my firm? And she was like, DocuWise is so easy. They can pick it up. They don't need to have experience with it. And I thought that was such a positive impression to have. That's I'm going to jump in and pick up DocuWise and do the cases, as opposed to some competitors where you got to sit down and learn the software. You got to sit there. It's not as intuitive. So, that says it for itself. I thank DocuWise for everything that they've helped me open my firm with, and the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox. In addition to the magazine, I have a directory website, verifiedimmigrationlawyers.com. If you're interested and become a verified immigration lawyer, just email me. We'll go through your background, proof of certain cases that you did, so you can post on there. Membership in that also comes with access to the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, a library, videos, and information, all that kind of stuff. So definitely contact me about that. And for those who are thinking about becoming immigration lawyers, new to it, and you want to learn the basics and get a marriage immigration full education on how to do that case the way I do it, 12 hours of videos, office hours and hours of office hours. We just had our first office hour session for the existing people, and then the new ones after that. Just email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. And let me know you're interested. We'll have a call, figure out if it's appropriate for you. I got to say that this is just general education we're get into right now, and just some thoughts. It's not legal advice. You consult with an immigration attorney if that's what you're looking for. So let me share my screen and let's go check out what's going on since February 15th. So one thing that we're seeing a lot is the demand for immigration has just gone huge. Demand for immigration employees. So not only paralegals, which you'll see, but also lawyers. One group, a senior associate at EY, Ernst & Young in Canada, which has the business immigration aspect to it, said they're recruiting for their business immigration attorney in Toronto. So the demands there all across the country, both paralegals and immigration lawyers, they all want a little bit of experience, so that's the thing. But some people don't want any experience. They may want to just grow with them. So if you're interested in some part of the immigration field, not necessarily a lawyer, there's a lot of demand right now in this area. A lot of business happening. It's interesting. We've talked about EY, Ernst & Young before, about their role in this immigration space. I did a chart for the first issue of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, which I had to subsequently update it and fix it a lot. I'm going to try to fix it up again, listing the top 10 biggest immigration law firms by number of lawyers that are immigration lawyers there. And one thing we saw is there was huge disputes and discussions happen in the comment section, particular that I didn't include the big 4 who are involved with immigration, EI, the other 2 or 3 are doing it in Canada as well. And it's kind of hard where to draw the line. Is it companies that are full law firms or not? Companies that are in the U.S. or not, or law firms? And also, how do I count them? Because if just trying to figure out how to count the lawyers and go on their website is difficult. So it's a work in progress. I'm probably going to contact their marketing manager and see what they want to tell me and how proof they have the number of employees. It's a fun chart to have. All right, so let's move on. we have a colleague. She's not a colleague. She's really involved in immigration, especially marketing. Her name is Manisha Mukhi. She started a practice. She's not even sponsoring or paying for this, but ways of helping people get involved in immigration on social media, in particular YouTube. Her channel is, I don't know, probably close to 15,000 people. She had a nice post here about 3 inexpensive ways to improve your Zoom setup. Use your smartphone as a webcam and stuff like that. Definitely check out her page, Manisha Mukhi. It's a pretty cool job, pretty cool page. Now, I'm just going by the posts I did that I keep in my library of information on immigration. And there's another job posting here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So it's a big thing that's happening. Our colleague Fiona McEntee, she was really involved in the immigration space. Advocate in the biggest terms. She's really pushing for Biden administration to start helping entrepreneurs, especially young ones, post. And we'll see what actually happens. I'm not really optimistic that Biden administration is going to be doing anything that worthwhile. But hope I'm wrong, and hope there's something that helps people doing startups and all sorts of other people to help make it more functional, the immigration system, from what it is today. And so here we have there's so many job postings. Marquetta Lind, former president of AILA, they voted every year. She's at that one big firm, I forgot what it's called. It's not listed. Name doesn't come up here, but Sidley Austin. They're looking for recruiting to hiring a new attorney in immigration law, and so that's that. Now, we talk about technology a lot. We have a lot of people in tech field on Roman Delchenko and what was it? Jared Dascott. A lot of other people are involved in the immigration tech space. Safar Shah, which their local office has Angela Paparelli there. They launched a program, some sort of technology immigration platform. So when you do volume immigration like they do with these big companies and HR, you got to have some sort of system. And they call it Caribou. It was a 2-year journey, they say, it took for them to make what they call the most advanced immigration platform powered by Salesforce. So, should you make a platform? They probably should make some sort of platform. They probably do too. I mean, DocWise probably has some sort of system in there. I don't use all this kind of stuff because I have such low volume that I just like to pick up the phone and call people, my clients. But most people don't run their practice like 50 years old, like the 50-year-old practice in the 1950s, the way I run my practice. But as tech is needed to really scale up, it makes a lot of sense. All right, Homeland Security officials scrap Trump-era union deal that could have stalled Biden's immigration policy. So a lot of interesting that's happening is undoing a lot of the Trump damage that happened, and they're taking away these deals and certain policies, and there's been lawsuits about it too. There are things where Trump wanted to make it so the states could decide on immigration, and that had to be rescinded. It was about a while. Investors granted $26.5 million in damages in EB-5 fraud lawsuit. The EB-5 space is just horrible right now with things that are happening. I have a client who we did EB-5 with back when I did EB-5, and he's coming to removal of conditions, and the business is no longer there. Was the hotel, and it's mired in fraud. And poor guy, he spent all his money, his time, had to go through so much, and it's just for the end of it to potentially just have it taken away. It's a mess, and hopefully the EB-5 program is cleaned up. And one thing they're doing is replacing a lot of terminology in immigration law, including like the word alien and stuff like that. One thing I don't like, and I've mentioned this before, is they're going to use like non-citizen or something like that. But the problem is an LPR is kind of like a half-breed. Is it like it's not a citizen, but you don't want to put together a lawful permanent resident with someone who's maybe doesn't have status or has temporary status. It diminishes from that, and the identifier is not good. So I guess they use resident alien when they're referring to non-resident or something. But it's just like a weird thing. We have another hiring right now, immigration attorney at Caribbean Women's Health Association. Apparently, they need an immigration attorney in New York City, so that was neat. Now, going back to February, I interviewed a former consular officer, Otto Van Mersen. This interesting guy. He's in San Francisco, working now in private practice. If you want to check it out, that's at the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox magazine YouTube page. Canada, I had an interview with Lori Tanous, and I'll come up again, where what's going on in Canadian immigration. Some aspects, it was like shut down essentially, so that was a mess when it comes to Canadian immigration. But they're trying to open it up and do some really big programs to try to keep people that are already there to be able to adjust status in their work world. and their methodology as opposed to consular processing. So that's really neat that happened. But the shutdowns that are happening there are catastrophic, especially like if you want to visit there, you have to go to mandatory quarantine. We haven't done that in the United States. And I have couples where they're married, they're waiting for consular processing in Montreal to finish, and they can't even see each other because they may not be able to, if the Canadian comes to the US and goes back, they have to quarantine, and the US person goes to have quarantine too. So it makes it really difficult, a very difficult process. One neat thing that happened is USCIS is realizing how ridiculous I-765 EADs are happening for STEM. So they put an update that they say, USCIS continues to experience delays at certain lockboxes and issuing receipt notices. Applications for employment authorization, OPT, will be able to do this. These delays will not affect the receive date. As a reminder, all submissions are date stamped upon arrival. We will not reject applications solely because they were filed at the lockbox address in use prior to the changes. So that changed the lockbox on January 8, 2021. You can imagine a lot of them got sent to the wrong place. And it says if you have timely filed the form I-765 based on STEM OPT and your post-completion OPT expires while the application is pending, we will automatically extend the employment authorization 108 days. So they gave that automatic extension for STEM OPT that existed for maybe C9 adjustment categories. So that's nice. Another thing they did about a month later after this posting, we'll see as I go through it, is that they opened up I-765 filings for online filing for EADs for OPT people or F1 students. So that was interesting that happened. Another thing that Biden administration did is reverting to targeted immigration enforcement rather than that catch-all wild system that President Trump had done. Another hiring open role, has anyone good fit, supervising attorney at a community-based firm in New York. So a lot of stuff in major cities. So that's something that's really, it tells what's going on in the market where there's so much demand for associates and paralegals. Everyone's ramping up, everyone's ramping up. But the business is there. This year has been a boom year for myself. Attorneys and managers of fraudulent asylum scheme charged in Manhattan federal court. So this is probably a lot of people. I'm not going into the article, but there's a lot of fraud that happens in asylum, unfortunately. USCIS reverts to the 2008 version of the naturalization civics test. So Biden undid the changes that Trump made with regards to the test, where they're going to require twice as many questions and potentially ask all this kind of stuff. So that's out of the way. What I would like them to do is to remove that aspect in the policy manual, where if you had any absence of more than 1 year, even outside the 5 years, they could potentially send you, NTA you for abandonment. That's a pretty crazy system that they had there. And visa bulletins are popping up. That's an old one. We'll keep going. Let's see. USCIS expands premium processing service to E3 petitioners. So, I've been thinking about this. I was thinking about it today a lot. Congress passed a law that said premium processing has to be expanded to include other types of cases, including, for example, EB1C, extraordinary ability, NIW, national interest waivers. But it's been a year now, probably, and USCIS still has not moved forward with that. They just added the E3, whoop-de-woo, how many numbers of E3s are there? But is this something you can sue on? Because who would get damages on this? I guess, clients who say we want to get adjudicated properly, whatever it is, they're not implementing the laws that are given to them. So that's a mess. Now, on the plus side, it's bittersweet. The Biden administration has lifted travel bans for green card for people getting green cards. These are immigrant visa travel bans, parents of U.S. citizens, spouses of green card holders, those categories. But practically speaking, a lot of these cases are held up because the embassies are not processing it. So I have many cases right now in the Middle East that are not foreign, or East Asia, and even in Europe. So they're just not moving forward because they've been so backed up too that it's not clear what's going to happen. So there's a plus there, but not really. We have another immigration law position opening in San Diego. Feldman Associates. Wow, there's a lot of postings. ICE investigators use a private utility database covering millions to pursue immigration violators. So ICE is going out of its way to use every single piece of technology, legal or illegal, freedom, thoughtfulness, constitutional or not, to try to catch people. It's got to be. There's 10, 20 million people here without status. You could throw a stick and you'll get someone without status. They really need to scour personal databases to find this stuff. That's what's going on? Going back to what I was talking about earlier, a second ago, about these embassies opening, our colleague Liam Shores constantly posts on the internet, on his social media, that in Tel Aviv in Israel, where is his home base, where he does a lot of consular processing, they keep scheduling and then canceling other appointments, scheduling and canceling. They're doing this all for a year now. It's pretty ridiculous how they just keep it closed. Don't schedule if you're going to cancel immediately afterwards. All right, so here's the chart. If you're watching on video, here's a chart that I put last time that I had to change up. Fragment being the biggest immigration law firm, Bow, Berry, Apple, and Leiden, and then Ogletree, Deakins. But these get adjusted if you include Ernst & Young and how you calculate all this kind of stuff. So I'm going to be working on that's a fun list. So I think you'll like it. Now, the national interest exception to the travel ban, especially for people on tourist visas or employment kind of cases, that still exists. And they've gotten much more difficult on getting natural interest exceptions. For example, from what I'm hearing, every single port of entry stopped doing them except for Atlanta, because when Biden came and issued a new, updated travel ban just executive order on that, he specified it differently, that the interpretation CBP and almost every port is taking is that they no longer have the power to issue these exceptions. So they have to get it from the embassy. Some say if you get denied at the embassy first, then you can do it at the port, but they're going to be more difficult to be issued, and the embassies are having difficulties issuing too, or being difficult. But colleagues have said that in Atlanta, Georgia, that port is doing them, so that's maybe a last resort that you can give it a shot. Here's another firm, Florida. Sasha Westerman Kuning says Florida hiring immigration attorney. Wow, so many a lot of jobs opening up. ICE is adding a new appeals process for immigrants who've been detained. Well, that's good news. Corporate immigration attorney Hendrik Pretorius, I think he's in Washington State or San Francisco. He does a lot of tech stuff too. Corporate immigration attorney. That's something to look out for if you're in that area looking for a job. So we have a BIA decision. Board of Immigration Appeals has issued a matter of NEMIS, N-E-M-I-S, 2021. This is criminal law applying to categorical approach, all that kind of stuff. If you're into that, I'm gonna go into it because I'm into criminal immigration. That's something you probably got to read. Biden seeks U.S. Supreme Court dismissal of Trump immigration rule, dispute I-944. Well, that actually gets done on March 9th at this point. The I-944 is gone. And the consular version of it, DS 5540 or whatever it was, that's gone too. But obviously the public charge was still there. That never left. That's always been there from the beginning. But this aspect of it, adding this declaration of self-sufficiency, is gone. And from the few cases I had that dealt with it, I had parents of U.S. citizen cases. They weren't too strict on it in the first place. So I think they weren't even adjudicating them. That was a plus, but that was a really messed up period of time. It caused a lot of havoc. But who knows? Trump's saying he might run again for 4 years. I'm not sure immigration is going to handle another 4 years of that popping up. But we'll see. U.S. says visa applicants denied to Trump Muslim ban can apply. So they're going back for people that were denied for the Muslim ban. They may have to pay fees and reapply all this kind of stuff. They're reopening it, but who knows how long that's going to take to really catch where it needs to go. ICE arrests and deportations plummet after Biden administration limits enforcement. That may be the case. I think the border issue is the biggest problem that's happening right now. The surge is happening over there. Now, one thing I want to remind people on, they got rid of the I-944, but with that, they had to update the forms like I-864, the I-485, I-129, and several other forms. This is very important. Had to be revamped. And USCIS said after April 20th, today being April 25th when I'm recording this, if you had one of these forms, you got to submit the new version. So if you had a client you started working on 3 months ago and it took them forever to finally sign the paperwork or whatever, make sure you update them because they will reject the old form if you submit it. So it's very important that you make sure you have the most recent version of the form that you're submitting. We have another BIA admin closure rule enjoined. This evening, Judge Ilston in North District, California, preliminarily enjoined the rule, appellate procedures, and decision finality immigration proceedings, administrative closure, which eliminates admin closure and sua sponte MTRs. Well, thank God. So Jenny's out. Thank you, Immigration Rights Program for Asian American Advanced Justice. Apparently, administrative closures come back. Thank God. That just makes sense to have that kind of power. So that's really important. Now, it's interesting. There's a posting. I'm not sure if I have it here, but the DOJ posted a job for an immigration judge. And in the description, they wrote, immigration judges are a quasi-judicial entity. And I'm like, it's kind of funny they would admit to being quasi-judicial. It really shows it's quasi-legitimate that we have this program called the OIR. It's a weird thing. So we have it as Golan Anderson in Reston, Virginia, looking for an immigration paralegal. We have a lot of paralegals listening to. They might enjoy that. I had an interview with Sonia Figueroa, former immigration officer. That was a lot of fun, actually. A lot of people listen to this, enjoy it. Check it out, episode number 179. We're at 189 now. And then I interviewed also Brian Manning. Both these people had articles in the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox magazine. Brian Manning, former consular officer and former asylum officer. So he's a great guy to know. I think he works a lot of attorneys for preparing cases and all this kind of stuff. So if you're doing asylum, he's headquartered in Houston, I believe, but in Texas. That's a great resource to have there, to have on hand. And his article is really good. We also did a full CLE session with him. It's $25 for that one, but breaking down what you need to prepare for if you're new to doing affirmative asylum cases. All right, so also interview Masa Kambabi. Is really important there. It was a quick interview. Masa is an ALIS. She does a lot of Department of State liaison kind of work. And she was talking about the interviews or discussions they have with the Department of State about how humongous the backlogs are. And then backlogs like 10 times more than usual. So just be prepared for consular processing to continue taking forever. That's a nightmare that just won't go away. All right, Department of State expansion of interview waiver eligibility. I mean, they expanded interview waivers, so not everyone has to interview, but hopefully it happens sooner rather than later. USCIS may reopen H-1B petitions denied under 3 rescinded policy memos. So, and how do you go back? I mean, just how do you go back and fix all of that? The people that were denied H-1B extensions or new cases, and now they go back and say, oh, the law was not properly rescinded. How does that even happen? Now, TPS was declared for Burma, Myanmar. I'm guessing there's only a couple hundred people that probably fall into this category. But if you run into a Burmese client, then, get that TPS in. All right. So one cool thing, I thought it was cool, but, Charlie Oppenheim, the person that designates the visa bulletin and all that kind of stuff, Department of State, started doing a monthly video Q&A talking about the visa bulletin, taking questions on it. I listened to the last two. For immigration, for me, it wasn't that interesting. It was just like general questions. To a large extent, visa bulletin is what it is, and unless we're going to file lawsuits for errors or something like that, or it's just like, listen, just get the code, just get what it is, a chart, and go by it. It's not something to like sit and think about. There are a lot of clients I get that obsess, especially when you have. I mean, I understand why when you have like certain EB2, EB3 clients that have backlogs, we're constantly looking every month at it. It's like. But it's like, it drives you crazy if you keep thinking about these charts all day. Just get going with your work. All right. And so, I did on the cover of the first issue of Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, we had Greg Siskin, Charles Cook, and Jeff Joseph on. And each of their firms combined together do a lot of lawsuits. One of them was a regional trial ban litigation for onboarding. That's something that was very interesting. One of the many lawsuits they did. If you haven't already, check out just subscribe to the LinkedIn page for Immigration Lawyers Toolbox. I post a lot of neat stuff there. One thing I did is I went and got the Q3, the third quarter, fiscal year 2020 was the latest one we have, N400 naturalization application filings. And then I put them in order who the top offices were that are getting citizenship applications. I'm in Los Angeles. I always thought Los Angeles big, maybe San Francisco. But when I looked, the number one office getting citizenship applications is Houston, Texas, with almost 6,000. Then after that, Dallas, Texas, with 5,700, a little more than that. So Texas altogether is like the biggest field offices for getting citizenship cases. So that was really interesting, and it really just goes. And I'll do more of these charts, these filing charts for adjustment of status, I-130s, or whatever. But what's really neat to see is that if you're going to start a law firm, you know where to go, where the clients are. Now, a lot of these clients for citizenship, especially, will not hire an attorney. But in general, if the numbers are this high, that means immigrants are there. They need re-entry permits. They're going to get married after getting citizenship, apply for their parents, all this kind of stuff. So Houston and Dallas seem to be great places for business. And then after that's Newark, New Jersey with 5,500. The top three, I wouldn't think would be the top three. And the fourth is Chicago, which I kind of expected, then San Francisco, Atlanta, Baltimore, Washington, Philadelphia, Seattle. Overall, I expected it to be a different way. New York itself is not on that list. I would have thought New York is, but Newark is. I'm a West Coast kind of guy. I always thought Newark was someone mispronouncing New York until I got older. But that was an interesting thing, and it helps just business. So that's something to look at and think about. Now, I did an interview with Sophie Alcorn, and it was very interesting, very good attorney in Northern California. She had talked about a special program for people that are interested in H-1B and they're trying to be CAP exempt. There's some, you should listen to that. She talks about some pro bono organization that's came up that can help you with that. So something neat. Another interview I did was with Ritu Khosravi, she did an article about how to deal with the stress of being an attorney and dealing with clients that are too demanding. Definitely check out the interview and the article. I think you'll find it interesting. And Roman Zelchenko as well, colleague, had a conference last month, popped up out of nowhere, wasn't expecting it. I was in the process of moving houses, so unfortunately I couldn't really take advantage of it. But I hope y'all did, and I'll be back on the show to talk about how it went. All right, so okay, so if you're on LinkedIn, another person to follow is Robert Weber. He always has a lot of interesting comments. He says the relationship between COVID-19 and faxing is not clear to me. This is an excerpt of an email I just received from the USCIS Texas Service Center Pre- and Processing Unit. Quote, due to COVID-19 restrictions, courtesy faxes for RFEs, denials, and notices of intent are temporarily suspended. A paper hard copy is mailed to the addresses of record via standard USPS mail. Due to privacy and security concerns, the Texas Service Center will not email notices. That's kind of ridiculous because they used to email notice all the time. They stopped doing that. I'm California Service Center, so I work with the most. And then, now faxing, yeah, well, I don't understand. They don't want people to keep touching the fax machine or something like that. I don't understand how that works. Okay, April 2021, visa bulletin shows the EB1 India and China are current, so that's good news. Finally, that's happening. We have another request for immigration paralegal position at Berardi law firm, Rosanna Berardi. Where is Rosanna? She's in New York as well. DHS extension and redesignation of Syria for TPS. That's important to know. That's there. Ernst & Young hiring another Canadian person at Toronto. With a posting about that. Let's see what else going on. Nadine Hyde. So I did an interview actually with Nadine Hyde. She's an immigration lawyer that focuses a lot on technology. She has a great Facebook page called TIP, Technology Immigration Practice or something like that. First of all, join the Facebook page, but also listen to this. Nadine and I really get into it, talking about those apps and softwares that we use. And she said a lot of stuff that was interesting. I learned from. I said stuff people actually commented and liked this one. So number 185 with Nadine Hyde. You'll find that interesting. A lot of tech kind of stuff. Now, one thing actually happened is, I have cases that I go to Abu Dhabi for immigrant processing because Iranians there's no embassy in Iran. So they have to go either to Turkey, Armenia, or the United Arab Emirates, and Abu Dhabi in particular. And I have cases that are just stalled there, nothing's happening. And then one of our colleagues posted that all of a sudden the Emirate of Abu Dhabi did a travel ban where they won't let people in. So all my cases, although Biden got rid of the travel ban for parents of U.S. citizens, was a case I had. That were pending for a long time because of the travel ban. All of a sudden, they can't go even though the embassies. And now my colleague got an email from them. He posted it online to us. And I started telling clients. And clients like, no, my friends are going. One of my clients found some guy who's a travel agent and said, no, I'll get you an interview. And they're going right now. I told them I don't know anything about this. So do risk at your own risk. But it's so difficult. You never know. For Iranian clients, Turkey right now said we're only going to interview residents of Turkey. What kind of mess of stuff is that? We're going to sue on that, actually. And then Abu Dhabi maybe not letting people enter. Maybe they will. They're not being open discussing that. And Armenia is not accepting. None of them are accepting transfers. And Armenia is somewhat working, but they almost went to war. So it's like you never know this person's blocking you. This person's going to war. This person's travel banned you. Not giving visas. It's a peculiar situation. Now this is important. The agency USCIS extended its flexibility for responding. So definitely take a look at the most recent one of that. Getting 60 days here, 30 days here for filing different kinds of things. Another colleague in Germany, Ayla Kremen-Adama, I think she was a former consular officer, but I know she's an immigration attorney. I talked with her. I didn't do an interview with her, but I talked with her. She's looking for an experienced U.S. immigration paralegal for remote contract positions. So if you're paralegal listening, jobs are all there. We have another bilingual paralegal position, Sabrina Lee office in Alhambra. I think she does a lot of business stuff, and she's medical benefits too. It's nice. So the things are there. U.S. immigration at KPMG is another one of these practices. What is it called? These accounting practices. KPMG. They're looking for a U.S. immigration attorney in multiple locations. So demand is there, but they want experience. So you got to really listen to these podcasts, learn stuff, go to all the LA conferences, read everything you can, get mentors, do the cases. And then if you do all that, you can pretty much start your own firm. But not everyone wants to do that. The jobs are there for them to take. Let's see. July 29, 2020, the United States District Court from the Southern District of New York enjoined the Department of State from enforcing, applying, or implementing or treating as effective the Department's October 2019 interim rule, Foreign Affairs Manual, public charge grant. So that was the decision on public charge for embassies. Now, I didn't read into this. I don't do P's. But apparently, There's some updated guidance on P1A internationally recognized athletes who are coming in, but I don't know what that is all about. Oh, for those, if you deal with Russia, oh man, it's horrible. So all the politics that are happening between U.S. and America, they keep kicking out diplomats. Now they shut down more and more consulates. If you have a Russian case, try to get the client out of Russia and try to do the interview somewhere else, because it's just not going to happen. There's cases that are stalled there for sometimes years right now, and they're so backed up. We have this Liam Schwartz, a colleague in Israel, says, posted, this is a deeply unfortunate news for U.S. visa processing in Russia. Effective April 1st, Embassy Moscow's consular district will be expanded to include all of Russia. As a result, as of today, the U.S. Consul General in Yekaterinburg is no longer providing visa and American citizen services. Moreover, the U.S. Consulate General in Vladivostok will not resume its operation. So I had a lot of clients go to Yekaterinburg and Vladivostok, in Siberian embassies. Now they all have to fly to Moscow. It's not easy getting to Moscow. It's very expensive for clients. You go there, they're going to admin process you, might have to come back again. It's just so difficult. I mean, if you have an L in Russia right now, God bless, try to go to some other location that's there. Just trying to go to Moscow, because you're going to be stalled and deal with nonsense. So prepare for that. Okay, Eighth Circuit yet again disfavors religious liberties claimed for asylum. This court struck down another case of a Christian woman who was fleeing persecution on account of practicing her faith. Why? Because the court believed she could reasonably relocate within her country with a land area only slightly larger than the Twin Cities metropolitan area. This is from our colleague Scott Andrew Folks, who's kind enough to give an asylum article for the next issue of the Toolbox magazine. But that's the situation. Asylum is under attack. USCIS confirms elimination of blank space criteria. So this was the massive situation we saw for U visas and U's and asylum cases, where if you left the blank, it's an issue. So I got in a habit, and I don't do those kinds of cases, but on my I-485s, I-130s, I put NA for everything that's a word that we're not going to put in, and none for anything that's a number, as it's proposed and listed in the instructions for these forms. And I've kind of got the habit of that. I do it every time. There's two reasons. One is I'd rather not leave blanks, because, it might have some sort of rogue USCIS officer might write in something that we didn't write. So I doubt that's going to happen, but that's a possibility. So that's one reason to fill in everything. But secondly, when I'm reviewing cases, when I'm doing a final online review of my forms before I print them out, I go back and I type none and stuff like that for anything that's missing. And that kind of slows me down and forces me to read the applications better. So I kind of just, I don't need to. I become standard practice for myself. DHS extends Form I-9 requirement flexibility until May 31st, 2021. So I think you don't have to do in-person kind of stuff. FYI, the ACLU's Immigrant Rights Project is hiring both staff attorney position in New York and 2 internal fellowship positions in San Francisco office. Immigration law jobs, executive office, EOIR, attorney advisor position, law job, immigration law staff attorney in Albany, law school. I mean, it's just so many here. Immigration law job, junior immigration attorney, Koreatown. It's just popping. So that's pretty crazy. Now we have another chart that I did. The Trump administration, in its efforts to try to hurt people and companies, especially with the L1 category, started listing every company that does L1s and the number of L1s that they have. So I went in and looked at a chart and made like a top 10, just a fun little thing to see who's using these. The number one company using L1 intercompany transferees is Tata Consulting Services. They're custom computer programming services. Infosys, customer computer programming services. And 3, Amazon services, electronic and mail order houses. Essentially all the top 10, except for one, Schlumberger, who does support activities for oil and gas operations, are involved in the computer space. Deloitte also does management consulting. I guess that's a little bit different. But it is interesting to see these companies that are doing these volume L1s. They probably got blankets that are pretty huge that are doing that. F1 students seeking optional practical training can now file, as talked about that earlier, you can file the EAD online on April 13th. So we got about 2 weeks of more of content going through. I want to thank Ima Translate and DocuWise. They coordinated and combined their services, integrated is a technical word, so that when you're using DocuWise, you can use the translation program. So based on their posting, they say we've been excited to announce this integration with Ima Translate DocuWise for the many months that's taken to plan and implement it, and now it's finally here. Our Ima Translate integration enables our users to submit files for translation and receive them back, all from DocuWise. Ima Translate is a leading provider of certified translations for USCIS, NBC, and Immigration Worldwide, and we cannot be more thrilled. So that's really interesting that DocuWise has this open API software openness, trying to work with people to really bring cutting edge technology. All right. Yeah, Cut Hill v. Blinken, Second Circuit. 8 U.S.C. 1151 F2 incorporates the age reduction. Okay, so this is kind of a little bit complicated, but when you're thinking about CISPA, okay, I read this case. Okay, so it's a CISPA case. You have a person who files F2A and then becomes a citizen. And there's a question of when they naturalize as a person under 21, what happens? What age do they get locked in at, and stuff like that? And there's a decision there. I don't remember what it is exactly, but it's worth a quick read. I wish I could. I know I was better to remember it. But essentially, it worked to the benefit of the person, seeing their age was, I think, locked in under 21, even if the parent naturalized. I don't remember all the facts. All right, check out this job, associate immigration attorney in Newark, Delaware, U.S. So there's 2 Newarks, one in New Jersey and one in Delaware. But they're looking for an immigration attorney in Newark, Delaware. So if you're from there, that's help. That's something to do. Let's see, careers. We have J. Marks. Our firm is hiring associate for immigration practice. We are a attorney-person law firm committed to immigrant justice. It's wild how many job postings there are. Here, Mintz is hiring, seeking entry-level and experienced immigration paralegals, Mintz and Associates. We have Erickson, Business Immigration Associate. Erickson, that's a big one, the big top 10 big law firm, immigration law firms. In their Arlington, Virginia office, looking for business immigration attorney. So, wow, there's a lot of jobs. One thing for members of the Toolbox, they would remember I did these recordings every month, reviewing, L1 and EB1C AAO cases, decision appeals, and analyzing them, doing like an hour on each coming out each month. I stopped that. I was just taking too much time. But what I'm doing now is I still review them for myself personally. And so I take a couple of the top ones and I write an article and I put it in the magazine. I have the one from December 2020 at 3 or 4 cases. You can check it out in the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox magazine, analyzing really important stuff. So if you are doing L1, AB1C, you got to read this. It really follows up on important cutting edge things that have changed in that process. All right, and we have more articles on E2s, on EB5s, and all this in the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox magazine. Definitely check it out. So, talking about Israel canceling his appointments, Rob Weber lists on April 19th. U.S. consulates in India are starting to cancel and limit visa appointments due to an uptick in COVID. If you've been hearing in the news how bad things are happening in India, they're canceling appointments. And I have a lot of people calling me. Their Indian parents are here on tourist visas and they don't want to go back. They're doing extensions. So that's a booming business right there to check out. Visa Bulletin was launched in May. I didn't catch myself anything that stood out from there. But that's something to look at. I was talking about lawsuits earlier. From Greg Siskin, his law firm, Siskin Susser, and the 2 party law firms. He just filed a lawsuit against the U.S. consulate in Manila because there's refusal to process fiancé visas. 140 couples joined forces to do this. You know what? Putting aside the law and justice, which is very important, these kind of cases, and I participate in their other K1 case lawsuits with my clients. But this is good business. You think 140 couples, they got to each spend a couple $1,000s pop to do this. So it's a big chunk of money that comes in for that work. Now you got to manage 140 people, so that's a whole system right there. But I mean, if you're a small law firm trying to get a little bigger, and you have a couple paralegals and electronic systems, that not might be bad plugging this and getting these group lawsuits. It's good business right there. I did an interview with Katia Kuros. She's an excellent immigration attorney in Las Vegas, one of the top social media figures as well in the immigration space. That's another one I would recommend. That's the one before this recording we're doing here, episode 188. Definitely check that out. I take takeaways from there. I'm going to be adjusting my social media presence for my firm and how I'm going to be operating and present myself. And we talk about afterwards. She gave me some private tips too. We may set up, if there's demand, let me know if you're listening. If you're interested in that. She was going to get together with 2 other top people on YouTube that do immigration. Pretty much 1, 2, and 3 channels, biggest channels of immigration. Do a panel, help people out and learn about it. Very kind people. I would spend their time to do that. But let me know if you're interested. We'll definitely put it out. DHS announces rescission of civil penalties for failure to depart. So there were some sort of civil penalties for not partying. They're getting rid of that. UK adds India to travel ban list. Canada bans flights from India and Pakistan. DHS issues notice suspension. So they're making it easier for Syrian and Venezuelan F1 students while they're active in school to get that special work permission to be able to, work while they're studying because of, a financial need because their home countries are messed up, unfortunately. And the final thing is vaccinated American tourists will be allowed to visit Europe this summer. EU's boss hails huge progress of U.S. COVID vaccine drive. We were the laughing stock. Now everyone else is laughing stock in Canada and India and all this kind of stuff. It's just a mess. But thank you everyone for listening. I like going through this new stuff. It's really good to catch up. I'm trying to put my 2 cents in there. People tell me they like this stuff. The detailed legal analysis stuff is what people like the most. I put that behind a paywall because it takes so much time to do that. So if you're interested in learning about the Toolbox Library or Verified Immigration Lawyers or Champions for Freedom training program, or you want to contribute magazine, all this kind of stuff, or just a listener and you just want to reach out and get to know and have a talk or something like that, especially if you're an immigration attorney, just email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. I love talking with my listeners, letting me know you're there. It's always a pleasure. And just hundreds and hundreds, not thousands of people listening, and they reach out. So it's like it's a wonderful thing to have done. The magazine itself, thousands of downloads. It's been a huge success beyond what I thought it would. So we're gonna get issue 2 out in about early May. When you get a magazine out, you got to keep reading stuff and checking stuff, adding stuff. It's a lot of work, especially business has been booming. So it's like, I got business, got this, got family, got this. It's a mess. That's why I got to hire. It's something I've avoided for 10 years plus. And if you're listening to this, you constantly hear me talking about, I'm about to do this, but I got to hire, I think, because just so much opportunity to do new things that help more people that I got to scale to some certain extent. But again, the email is info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. Reach out in any way. I like knowing that you're there and what your thoughts are. Until next one, have a good one. God bless. Be safe.